Chapter 25. X. I was used to being locked up. It had almost become a comfortable place for me. I no longer feared or fought against the environment. I was used to sleeping on hard surfaces, used to eating rotten food. I just accepted the dirty loneliness of the life for what it was. I didn't want visits. I didn't want mail. Letters would just make me sick to go home. I'd get thirsty at the mail line waiting for something and have to flip on somebody the day I didn't get anything. So don't send me pictures. Don't come see me. Nothing. Just let me handle my bid. The jail was X's home. See, DMX was the rapper, but X was someone different. X was hunger. X was rage. And when I found X locked up in the cell, I knew that I was losing E.A.R.L. X lived in a place within me that I knew a young boy could never survive, almost like a monster. I could feel its full force pulse through my veins, and when he showed himself, my music took on a whole new identity. I was still writing, but now my phrases were hostile and my stories were dark. Unconsciously, my words formed sentences that were loaded with the anger and frustration I carried with me every second of every day. I spit fire at anybody who came my way, and slowly a new persona evolved out of the words of my own experience. Look in the mirror, say my name 5 times, turn out the lights, and I done took 9 lives. Don't get scared now, nigga. Finish it, 'cause you started it. Watched it grow out of control. Now you want no part of it. Yo, X is battling someone on H block. Inmates would cry out when they heard me starting to go at it with some clown who swore he was nice with the lyrics. Heads would put down their books, take off their headphones, stop whatever it was they were doing to bang on the metal bars of their cell gates. 20 murderers banging in unison provides a loud, thundering beat, and I would feed off the noise and just flow as hard as I could. There was always one or two guys that couldn't stand the racket. Yo, X, shut the fuck up. But I kept going and going until the officers came with their billy clubs out and would force us to break it up. Most of the time, these jail battles went down on a late night. But if someone wanted to challenge me, I was ready to go at it anytime. By now, Spellbound was by far my most popular rap. It had become the last song I performed at clubs and was the death blow I used in most of my battles. That's why the day one of my fellow inmates heard somebody spelling a rhyme on the radio, he thought it was me. Yo, X, you're on WBLS, he told me. At first, I didn't believe him, but after a few more guys told me that they heard it as well, I started thinking maybe Jack pulled a few strings and got Spellbound played somehow. It was on my demo tape. Then I saw the video. It wasn't me. K Solo, the brother that I battled through the fence in Suffolk County, the brother who I beat in the hardest battle that I had ever had, the friend that I chilled and became cool with, had taken my style and it was blowing up. That biting motherfucker. I had explained to him how to do the style. Even though everyone in Yonkers and the Bronx and New Rochelle knew that Spellbound's style was mine, it didn't matter now. Not when the record was getting national airplay. My talent was making a star out of somebody else, and there was nothing I could do about it. Crazy Earl would have been angry, but X got furious with it. I just sat in myself for days and made so many songs dissing that bastard I renamed him Case Stole It. And then I wrote something else, a song I called Born Loser. It expressed exactly how I was feeling. The born loser, not because I choose to be, but because all the bad shit happens to me. No matter for laughter, this shit's for real. Ribs are showing through my back cause I haven't had a meal. In about a week you can see my bones in my hands. The raccoons beat me to the garbage cans. Simmons, where are you from? One of the corrections officers from my cell block asked me one night before lock-in. How long have you been rapping? COs and I rarely shared any casual words. Most of the time, our interactions dealt with discipline or disrespect. Because my partner and I made beats, and we were thinking maybe, huh? You're a CO, man, and I'm a prisoner. What are you talking to me about beats for? Well, I was thinking maybe one day we could work together. This was crazy, but I could tell when a nigga was hungry for something. My man had been listening to me spit lyrics for months already, up and down the cell blocks. So maybe he wanted to fuck with X? My manager, Jack McNasty, handles all of my business. I told him, you should talk You should talk to him and play him some of your tracks. But you know, if you want me to rap over any of them, I can't do anything for you in here. 2 weeks later, Jack came up to Valhalla to visit me and said that he had met with the two COs. It seems they wanted to be producers, but they had no MC. Well, let's see. I want to be free, but I have no money. Let's make this happen. That next Friday, my $2,500 bond was paid in full, and I was out of jail within a few hours. The deal that Jack made was for me to go to their house in Mount Vernon where they had a keyboard and 4-track recorder set up and lay down some vocals. There was no contract, no nothing. When I asked Jack what their beats sounded like, he laughed and told me that he never heard them. Chain snatching was a pretty big quality of life crime in New York at the time. It was one of those random acts of violence that the public felt needed to be stomped out right away, like carjacking or wilding. And when my trial came around, I was nervous that the predominantly white jury would see me as a threat to society, even though I hadn't been over their side of the world in years. But witnesses tend to forget that when someone else is testifying, you're forced to wait outside the courtroom so you can't hear what's going on. If you're trying to corroborate someone's story, you had better work out the details beforehand. The kid whose chain I snatched did none of that. His brother's story was different from his man's. His man's was different from his. Jack was sitting behind me when, after a few hours of deliberation, the jury foreman read the not guilty verdict. Now I was free for good. Chapter 26. Wah rolls by. Everybody told me I wasn't going to make it to see 20. Boy, you ain't never going to make it to that old. So when I turned 20, I was like, yeah, fuck you. Tashira had an apartment on Locust Hill in Yonkers. If I wasn't out in New Rochelle, that's where I would chill with her and her friend Nicole. One night I was looking out the window and saw a burgundy Z28 with dark black tints pull up on the block. It was late, almost midnight, and I didn't recognize the car. A good hood nigga should always be able to recognize all of the local vehicles. It's information that's as vital as the location of the weed spot or the name of a new shorty who recently moved into the projects. But I had never seen this Z before, or the brother who got out of the driver's seat in a long tan trench coat. When he walked up to the house and rang the doorbell, I told Tashira not to answer it. The next night, the same car pulled up again, and this time I made sure I had a burner tucked in my sweatpants, and Boomer was ready by my side. It was 3 a.m. It was the same dude in a trench coat. He called out to me from the sidewalk. Yo, you know this nigga named DMX? Why? What's up? I answered, opening the door carefully. Are you X? He asked me again. Boomer started pulling. I started to reach for my waistband, and then another dude jumped out of the passenger seat. But it was Tiny, this kid I knew from School Street. He had a smile on his face. Yo, D, what's up, dog? It's good. This is my man, Joaquin. Wah looked up and nodded his head. I've been looking for you, dog, Tiny said, because we're trying to start some music shit, and I told my man that you're the hottest rapper out here. Here I was thinking that someone was trying to come for me when all they wanted to do was talk game. We're starting a company, yo, for real. We want to put some money in this shit and set it off. I was playing my man one of your tapes. Tiny was a short, muscle dude with broad shoulders. He spoke real fast. Yeah, that's good, I answered him, unimpressed. See, I had heard this pitch before. Ever since the castle, besides Jack and his partners, manager types were constantly stepping to me with some kind of music business proposition, as were all the random producers that I was meeting in studios who had imprints or independent labels of their own. But no one took it beyond talk. I'm looking for the best nigga out here, Wah interrupted, looking at me. I just want the dude who knows how to get down and make some money. Wah spoke carefully with a deep, gravelly voice. I could tell he was the hustling type. And my man said you got this whole area on lock with the music, so you're the one I came to see. Well, it's nice to meet you, I said to him, heading back inside. When you get it going, just let me know something. It's on now, D, Wah called out to me. All we're waiting on is you, dog. But I was already back in the house. The next morning, I heard someone banging on Tashira's side window. Yo, DMX! Wah was back again. X is Y. Come outside, man. I want to talk to you. He said he wanted me to roll with him, wanted me to hear more about where he was coming from and see what kind of nigga he was. I asked him if I could bring Boomer with me, and that's when he told me he loved pits. He had two of them of his own and loved to roll with anybody that fucked with dogs. I climbed in the Z. Y and his brother Darren were raised in Mount Vernon and now called Harlem their main stomping ground. Hustling niggas. Y had started to see how much money was being made in hip hop while him and his peoples were losing lives in the street over much less dough. It didn't add up. So one day he made up his mind that music was going to be his new hustle. It was a way to make paper that didn't involve death or trips up north. How do we do this? He asked me. Y wanted to learn everything about the music business he could. He knew that I wasn't a rookie anymore, and he said if I showed him what I knew about the hip hop game, he would give me what I needed to make it happen. If I was with it, the two of us could walk these dogs together. We ended up rolling together all week. D, do you got ends? It wasn't long after I met Y that things suddenly started to look up financially. Here, dog, take a couple of 20s. And yo, you need smoke, nigga? Yeah, this is what's up. This is the kind of treatment I deserve. Not only was I coming back on the block with bills in my pocket wearing a new pair of kicks, but I also had a bag of weed. And it wasn't the normal weed either. It was downtown smoke, the kind YO niggas didn't come across too regularly. This was a major step up from being broke in the studio, a major step up from Jack McNasty. When I met Darren, he was chilling by the phone booth on 125th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem with his partners Bishop and Skip. These were the pre-cell phone days when the public phone on the corner was a hustler's money tree as long as you had a beeper and a lot of numbers in your head. Y brought some of my tapes with us in his truck so he could play some of my songs for the crew. They weren't music niggas, but they were hustling niggas. And a real hustling street nigga could always hear a banging hip hop track. Yo, that shit is hard, D. Those lyrics are crazy, they all said to me. You need to get on, baby. Everyone who listened to my music on the street that day heard what I was capable of. They felt my music, understood my music, and I just got a real strong feeling that they were ready to do something about it. All you gotta do is keep rapping like that, D, Y said. Just tell us what we need to do and we'll take care of the rest. Jack and I started to spend less and less time together, and it soon became clear to me that we were living in two different worlds. After he came home from his 9 to 5, he would usually just come home and go upstairs. Maybe his girlfriend would come over and the two of them would watch a movie, but that would be about the extent of his nighttime activities. Meanwhile, I needed to be hanging out. I needed to be in the streets, running, robbing, rapping. But I was 20 and he was 35. He wore slacks and shoes. I wore sweats and Timbs. That wasn't going to work. I couldn't go where he went, and he surely didn't want to go where I was going. So when I told Jack that I wanted to roll with Y and his brother to try and put a single out, he didn't object. He knew what I was drawn to. He understood the lifestyle that I needed to lead, and he knew they had the dough. He could see Y and Darren pull up in front of the house with the new trucks. He could figure out the reason I had new gear and money in my pocket. And by this time, I was so frustrated working with people that were half with the money, the part time hustlers, the working at the garage type of dudes, that the decision to roll with Y was an easy one. If I wanted to make 500 tapes to sell on the street and someone had $1,500 ready for me that same day, I was with it. I didn't want to wait until next Monday because you had to hit wifey off with some cash because she was beefing at you. If I wanted to record a new track, I wanted to pay whoever we needed to pay to get busy. I didn't want to owe a studio money week after week falling into more debt that I was never going to pay. Y was always straight up business. All I ever heard from him was, "What? Tell me what we need. Okay, come on, let's go." Right now, I always responded in shock, not believing that anyone could be built like I was, ready for war at a moment's notice. Oh shit, bet, I like this. One night, Y was trying to think of a name for the operation, and I instantly thought of Rough Riders. I just knew the type of niggas we were and how we were living in the streets, and Rough Riders sounded perfect. I just thought that we should spell it differently because someone would probably be using it already. And when the two of us went down to Lower Manhattan to get the license for the company, Rough Riders was officially born. Chapter 27, Born Loser. The production agreement that Waz signed with me and Jack, who based on his managerial contract with me had the right to approve any deal that I wanted to make, was to put together an original single in 6 months' time. So the first thing Waz and I had to do was learn what a hot beat was. Once I didn't need them to keep me out of jail anymore, I didn't deal with the COs too much. They were good guys, and I had gone over to their spot a few times to spit some rhymes with them, but they just didn't have the tracks I wanted. So almost every night for the next few weeks, me and Y hunted down all the young producers in the city and listened to the tracks they had. Oh, so you have some old R&B material, huh? I told the kid who had us thinking he was the rawest beat maker in hip hop, while he only had a few Barry White loops. I already knew that I didn't want a beat that sounded good after 2 or 3 minutes. I needed something that grabbed me as soon as I heard it. Chad Dr. Seuss Elliott was a producer that Y had met who had been working with a group called Jodeci at Uptown Records. When he played us his material, I knew right away that I could match some of my rhymes to what he had. They were raw and sounded real hard. The first rhyme I wanted to use was Born Loser. The second I called Catching the Same Hell. And within a week, Y and I decided that those two songs should become the two sides of my first 12-inch vinyl single. No more rhyming off of other artists' instrumentals. Now, I had my own shit. I knew that if we pressed up 500 copies of Born Loser on vinyl and gave them out to radio DJs and club promoters, we could get the song buzzing on the street. Once that happened, then record stores would take notice and we could start taking orders and selling copies to everyone. The science behind doing a single was the same as selling mixtapes. The payoff was just bigger. Jack liked the record when we received the first batch of vinyl. He printed up flyers promoting the song and listed all the request line numbers for the local radio stations on the back. He and his partners handed them out all through the projects, through School Street, Slow Balm, and Ravine, hoping that all of the people that knew me and YO would call up WBLS or Kiss FM and ask for the song to be played. His effort worked. One night, Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, who were the evening DJs on WBLS, announced that Born Loser was on their nightly countdown. The following week, two Long Island radio stations followed the lead of BLS and added the song to their own weekly rotation. Born Loser, the first rhyme that I had ever put on wax, was getting airplay, and I was amped. Just like I thought, it wasn't long before Jack started getting purchase orders from the song from stores all over New York. So now we had to find a real distributor because up to this point, Jack had been sending the record out himself. I was with Wah the night Jack called me from Philadelphia and said not only had he found a company down there that wanted to manufacture Born Loser, but DJ Rand, the main DJ on Philly's R&B station Power 99, was a big fan of the song and had helped him schedule a meeting with Chris Swartz, the head of Rough House Records. Rand had said that Rough House might want to distribute the song nationally. Wah didn't like Jack. He felt he was a clown ass nigga who wasn't capable of taking me to the next level. And the more time I spent with Wah, the more I agreed with him. My music was hard, grimy street music because I was a grimy street nigga. And that was the only way that I felt I should represent myself. If I was to succeed, I wanted it to be with hood niggas who shared a dream with me, hood niggas who knew how to handle their business. Jack was not that. I didn't tell him that then, but he wasn't stupid. Jack knew he was losing me. I want to break bread with the cats that I starved with. I want to hit the malls with the same dogs I robbed with. Want to be able to laugh with the niggas that I cried with. When it's over, be like, these are the niggas that I died with. Chapter 28, Tests of Strength and Faith. It was 7:15 a.m. and the sky was dark in New Rochelle. I saw Jack walking his dog. Where you coming from, nigga? He asked me. I was hanging out. Well, Tashira's gonna be pissed. Jack looked curiously at my man I had with me, But he kept going. When I got to the house, I waited for Jack to come back and get ready to leave for work. Tashira asked me why I didn't want to go to sleep. At 7:55 a.m., once Jack was gone, I gave her her answer. Earl, you don't want to do this. The 36-inch television that my manager had in his living room now belonged to me. Tashira, get out of the way and just leave me alone. She actually tried to stop me from taking it. Earl, you can't just walk out with Jack's TV. She had her arms wrapped around one end of the set and was trying to pull it away from me, but she couldn't stop me, not in the darkness that I was in. As I was walking away from the house, I heard her on the phone. Yo, Jack, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Earl, but I always got my weight back. Or as my Uncle Pinky used to say, I cleaned up well. I think that was part of how I was able to hide my struggle from people as long as I did. After an episode, I could just stay somewhere for a few days and get myself back to looking normal. I could play it off too. Like the day Tashira wondered why I left her apartment wearing a purple leather jacket and came back a few hours later without it. A TV would be harder to explain. What? What did he do? I didn't have nothing to do with it, Jack. I just wanted to call you and let you know so when you come home tonight and see your shit missing, Tashira tried her best. I'm so sorry, Jack. Jack pressed charges. Wah tried to help the situation by finding who I sold the television to, but the damage had already been done. That weekend, on the strength of Born Loser, I performed at a new artist showcase at the Jack the Rapper music conference in Atlanta. When I saw Jack there, Wah urged me to apologize. It was the right thing to do, but that was the last time I would ever see or speak to my manager for many years. A few weeks later, Wah and Darren hired a lawyer to sever my management agreement with Jack McNasty. A few days after that, in a meeting with Rough House Records, I was offered a recording contract for Born Loser. Those that don't have as much strength as the rest of us, we rely on things that we think make us stronger, but actually make us weaker. And that's what this is. Something that makes me weaker than I could be. DMX speaks about the blunt he holds in his hand. Sitting in a swivel chair in the main recording room of Phoenix's Chatton Studios is part of a lesson about drugs and alcohol that he's been given to produce a Swiss Beats 5-year-old little brother who, for the past few hours, has been surrounded by a thick fog of weed smoke. This is something that takes away the strength that was given to me. It's like a crutch. I'm using something to help me be strong because I'm not as strong as your brother. Swiss has stopped smoking weed. X hasn't reached that place yet, but his dark days are far less dark today than they were in the past. I asked him about his own struggles. Struggles? That's putting it lightly, dog. 'Cause yeah, I've had a lot of them. But what helped me a lot is the understanding that I got. I wouldn't have had all the will to stop doing anything if it wasn't for my wife and my kids. I wouldn't have even given a fuck. X pauses for a few moments. I probably got about 5 more years, maybe 4, before me and my son take a walk and twist one of these things, he says, staring at his blunt. I know it's going to come up, so I told him whenever you think about it, fuck with me. I can't stop Xavier from doing anything. That's like telling him don't fuck. Yeah, whatever, Pops. But I told him I'm your father. But I'm your nigga first. Whatever you need to know about life, I'll walk you through it and hold your hand. Not hold your hand like you can't do it yourself, but be right beside you when you walk. The way anytime you get nervous, that way anytime you get nervous about walking or don't want to walk anymore or don't know where you're walking while you're walking, I'll be right there for all of your questions with all of your answers. X exhales a long drag. And then I'll probably ask him if he got any pussy yet.